Estimate at completion is a forecasting method that is used to provide the cost estimate of a project once it's complete. There are different ways to calculate EAC, depending on the factors involved. The four formulas are used for specific scenarios and help measure how much a project may be off track. By understanding each formula, you can make the most appropriate corrective changes to your project. Estimate at completion, or EAC, is an element of the Earned Value Management framework. During the course of a project's life cycle, this word refers to the activity of estimating the budget. To put it another way, how much money will be spent on the project after it is completed. Using this information, you may assess whether or not you have exceeded your initial budget expectations. In contrast to other techniques of cost estimates, the estimate at completion computation considers unforeseen expenditures and understands that original budget forecasts are unlikely to be accurate in the long run. For this reason, it is commonly referred to as a project forecasting tool. Given the similarity between these two terms, they are frequently used interchangeably. Since they are so often misunderstood, it is critical to understand the differences and when to compute for which of the variables. Total expenditures are predicted by the estimate at completion, whereas the amount of money required to finish the project is predicted by the estimate to complete, or ETC. Estimate to complete is a projection of all extra funds that will be necessary to finish a project after it has begun. Amounts previously spent are not taken into consideration. Even the most meticulously calculated budgets are not always completely correct. Changes and unforeseen situations such as increased or reduced expenditures and costs are commonplace in project management. To keep track of precisely how a change would affect the entire budget, project managers might use the EAC technique. Making well-informed choices is easier when you know exactly how much money you're talking about. Multiple factors go into determining an estimate at completion, including the budget, cost, and on occasion, scheduled performance. The Earned Value Management System includes all of these components as well. There are multiple ways to look at these phrases. But what precisely are they? As the name suggests, the budget at completion, or BAC, is the total money needed to execute a project successfully. To calculate BAC, tally up all your projected expenditures and spending. Budgets are usually divided into categories. The BAC is the aggregate of all of the individual categories. If you want to know how much money you're spending, you may use the Cost Performance Index. The ratio of earned value of the work completed to the actual cost of doing the work gives the CPI. This index, like CPI, assesses how well time is being utilized. Earned value is divided by planned value to get the SPI. You must have the most up-to-date information in order to produce accurate predictions, because the dashboard is updated in real time. It is impossible to make future-oriented choices based on outdated facts. Using a variety of filters, you may tailor the dashboard to your needs and focus on the most important information. Everything you must know about the project is right there in one place. You may quickly make comparisons like anticipated against real expenses, planned versus actual completion, and more using your dashboard. That means you won't have to go up the calculator or depend on third-party tools to figure out something like your EAC. There are 4 general categories for EAC calculation. This formula is used when the current deviation with the original estimation is thought to be different in the future. It is generally AC plus the remaining value of the work to perform. This formula is used when the original estimation is met without any deviation. It signifies that your project is going well. You're maintaining the CPI and SPI as one, and you should continue the project in the same way. It is always good for a project manager if he or she is maintaining a CPI and SPI as one or even more than one. This formula is used to calculate actual to date plus the remaining budget change based on the performance. It is used when we believe the current ratio is typical as planned. In other words, we have to meet the schedule earlier than the original determined, and we calculate the EAC accordingly to meet that schedule. This formula is used when the original estimation is fundamentally flawed. It calculates the actual plus new estimate for the remaining work. 4 general formulas are used when calculating for EAC. Let's discuss them briefly and use an example to further our understanding of how to apply a particular formula. There are 4 general categories for EAC calculation. This formula is used when the current deviation with the original estimation is thought to be different in the future. It is generally AC plus the remaining value of the work to perform. In this example, the CPI is considered abnormal, so you can calculate estimate at completion using the formula from assumption 1. Estimate at completion equals actual cost plus budget at completion minus earned value. By using the above mentioned formula, you get the value of $600,000. This formula is used when the original estimation is met without any deviation. It signifies that your project is going well, you are maintaining the CPI and SPI as one, and you should continue the project in the same way. It is always good for a project manager if he or she is maintaining the CPI and SPI as one, or even more than one. In this example, the CPI is not considered abnormal, so the formula using CPI or assumption 2 will be in use. The formula that we might be interested in using in this particular example would be estimate at completion equals budget at completion divided by cost performance index. Calculating, we get the value of just over $423,000. This formula is used to calculate actual to date plus the remaining budget change based on the performance. It is used when we believe the current ratio is typical as planned. In other words, we have to meet the schedule earlier than originally determined, and we calculate the EAC accordingly to meet that schedule. In this example, the CPI is considered abnormal, so you can calculate estimate at completion using the formula from assumption 3. That is to say, estimate at completion equals actual cost plus budget at completion minus earned value, all divided by cost performance index into schedule performance index. This formula is used when the original estimation is fundamentally flawed. It calculates the actual plus new estimate for the remaining work. In this example, the original estimates are poor because they are based on a flawed approach. Therefore, you should calculate EAC using the formula from assumption 4 here, which is estimate at completion equals actual cost plus bottom-up estimate to complete. I hope you have clearly understood when or where to use the formulas to get your answers correctly. The trick is to understand the question and then deciding which formula to apply. Your answer must match with one of the 4 answers to the question in your exam. The next lecture comprises of different random questions on the same topic, and solutions are given in the lecture after that one, where we will also be taking on some of the other EVM formulas and will practice doing questions. Best of luck.